My name is Chadi Patel, and I'm going to discuss the disadvantages and workability issues of our permanent solution, which is to just cancel the project. My teammate Eric has already discussed some of these, and we're going into a bit more depth. So firstly, the disadvantages of their solution include that cancelling the project would financially hurt us in the long run. All of their examples have been short-term effects. And that the high-speed rail is an environmentally friendly alternative to other transportation systems. And then finally, that cancelling the project would continue to make the US fall behind other countries in terms of development and innovation. So our opponents suggested that the project would put us into more debt, and by cancelling it, we'd stop ourselves from acquiring excess debt, at least in terms of transportation expenses. When in reality, cancelling the project would financially hurt us in the long run. Dan Richard, who's the newly appointed head of the California High-Speed Rail Authority Board, explained that California's future demand for improved transportation systems in an interview with CBS at the beginning of last month. It was basically that over the next 20 to 30 years, California is going to expect a growth of about 20 million people. This is obviously going to cause a mobility problem that we need to address. There's three options the state could take. We could just sit back and do nothing until the problem escalates and we really have to confront it. The problem with this flaw is, he goes on, the flaw we're just sitting back, as explained by Urban Land Institute and Ernst & Young, which is an engineering consulting firm, in their report called Infrastructure 2011, a strategic priority, is that if we don't invest in new systems or we keep ignoring the maintenance of existing systems, we're just going to lose money either way. So it predicts that users will start to face higher costs either because the transit fares and taxes will increase in order to cover the operational costs of trying to maintain our existing systems. The other situation would be that areas would get neglected and deteriorate, so they would suffer financially because businesses, if it's a neglected area, businesses won't boom there, who would go there. Or the local governments are going to have to raise property and sales taxes in order to stop those areas from deteriorating. The other two options would be expanding our existing transportation systems, which would be the auto and air travel, or investing in new systems such as high-speed rail. And then the opponent presented a lot of numbers about how expensive the high-speed rail project is. The high-speed rail authority estimates that the alternative cost of highway and airport construction to meet this future growth would be about $100 billion, which is still greater than how much we'd invest into the high-speed rail. And therefore, despite how expensive this project is in the short term, it's cheaper than all the alternatives that we have. Eric kind of discussed this, that the project is aimed at creating jobs, so by cancelling the project, we'd lose that potential solution to our state's unemployment problem, as well as our deficit problems, because increasing jobs is a good way of stimulating the economy, as well as that same report from the Land Urban Institute, which discussed, they analyze infrastructure issues both in the US and globally. They explain how investments in infrastructure are a good investment, especially in tough times, because, like I said, they will stimulate a tough economy as well as modernizing our systems for future growth. And then improving on our transportation infrastructure increases mobility, which increases productivity and allows industries to grow and flourish, which I know some people have criticized some of the locations on the route because they're supposedly in the middle of nowhere, but this would help get those areas to grow because now there's access to them. I think some quotes that some studies have shown that since those areas are already suffering and house prices are low, people could actually go and buy a house there for cheap, and then because of the train, they could still commute to LA and San Francisco for the same commute as they would be driving from where they live right now. And then Eric's already used a lot of the same sources I had for explaining how the high-speed rail system is environmentally better than other alternatives. And yes, there are a lot of negative impacts to the environment that might happen, but they're always going to happen in any project you do. If you expand freeways, you're still going to disrupt natural environments, or there's going to still be issues with right-of-way acquisition. I mean, the freeways we drive down right now, do you see much room on the sides of them to expand those? Or realistically, how many more lanes can we add to a freeway before it just becomes a hazard zone? And then the final point was that cancelling the project would cause the US to continue to fall behind other countries in terms of innovation and technology. The Urban Land Institute's report also found that the US is notably continuing to lag behind its global competition. China spends about 9% of their GDP towards infrastructure, whereas we spend less than 3% a year. And the report also points out how we're a nation that prides ourselves in our innovation, enterprise, and leadership. And unfortunately, recently, we've been focusing so much on government spending and cost overruns that we've kind of neglected these values that have put us where we are today, and we haven't been investing in new projects or new innovations. So even though it could potentially be a financial burden in the short term, it will help put us back on the map as innovative leader.